Parents are one of the greatest blessings in life. It's something that I've been thinking a lot about, just sort of my own example with my own parents, and just really counting all my blessings because I definitely hit the jackpot in terms of having the best parents, the parents that have always been there for me and my brother, the parents that have always supported us, have given us everything, have sacrificed everything. And I know not everyone shares the same sort of life journey as I do. I know as well, and I've seen with my own eyes, unfortunately, parents that did not provide the best for their children, were not there for them, and in some extreme cases, did everything possible to, uh, get in their way and hinder them and prevent them from actually growing as individuals. Um, so I do recognize that as well, but the reason I wanted to do this video is in the majority of the cases where we actually have parents, good parents, or good step parents, or even good ancestors, right? It doesn't always have to be your immediate biological mother or father, but just more of the elderly people in your life that have come before you, that have passed on something to you, that have been an influence, a guide, a rock. Really, that's what this video is all about. Life inevitably has to have parents in order for there to be children, in order for there to be a future. And for many of us who are lucky to have really good parents, that really sets a totally different trajectory in our life, right? That can make the difference between choosing the right path and choosing the wrong path. And I know I'm kind of oversimplifying there because it's very subjective what you consider the right path versus the wrong path. But I think many of us can agree that having a good upbringing, a good base, a good foundation is so instrumental in shaping how we become as adults, how we ultimately go out and live our lives. Um, there's a saying that my grandpa, may his soul rest in peace, used to say, which is, if you plant a tree crooked, it's always going to grow crooked. Meaning if the foundation isn't right from the onset, it's very difficult to fix the course of that tree. And of course, the analogy, the metaphor here is referring to parents, referring to one's upbringing, referring to one's, um, sort of social structure in the very early formative years, but also even well up into adulthood, right? Um, I know not all of us have been dealt with the best of hands. I know not all of us have the luxury of having amazing parents. And for those people, I will say that it's not a lost cause, right? Just because you don't have that, we don't get to choose our parents, unfortunately. I think if we did have that choice, we would all choose the best parents. I certainly felt lucky in that regard. I don't think I could have asked for a better mother and father than who I have today. But I know there are many people out there that wish for a different past, wish for a different upbringing. And unfortunately, we can't go back and change that, but we can change how we want to live our lives going forward. And more importantly, if we want to become parents, to not repeat those same mistakes, to not repeat that same trauma, to not repeat the same difficulties that perhaps some people experience growing up as children and young adults. So with that in mind, with this sort of context in place that we all have different backgrounds, we all have different upbringings, I just want to take some time to talk about parents in general, good parents in general, and what they mean not only for the immediate family, but also the rest of society, right? I think I've gotten a lot more appreciation of it as I became a parent. Um, Certainly, there were some ideas before I had my daughter, but after seeing her come into my life, I have a totally different appreciation for parenthood. And I have a totally different appreciation for what my own parents did for me when I was young, when I was, growing up. I'm still very early in that journey, as some of you know. I still have yet to experience so much along the path, but these early years have certainly opened my eyes to a lot of things and have made me even more grateful for the generation before me. Um, I always think that, as parents, it's such a difficult role, right? Because you're not only living your life, but you're also responsible for someone else. And, you develop this, um, sort of this instinct, it's sort of this, kind of this mentality that you all of a sudden become secondary and your family becomes of paramount importance. Your family is what you are ultimately striving for and, trying to give a better future. Even though I feel right now that I live an amazing life, I always feel this sort of, I wouldn't call it pressure, but I feel this duty to give my kids, hopefully, a better future and a better life than what I'm currently experiencing right now. So there's always that feeling, and I think part of being a good parent, and by no means am I suggesting that I'm the best parent, but I think what I've learned is that putting your kids first, putting your family first is so important. And seeing this makes me just appreciate that much more from my own parents, what they have done, especially given that their situation was so unique, coming from, emigrating from Afghanistan, having to leave because of the Soviet invasion, starting in a new country with a new language, with a new set of circumstances, and building it all back up to then also at the same time, while juggling all these other things, trying to provide a future for their kids. So I know there's a lot of families out there that have moved and have had to start all over, and I can only imagine what that's like. Obviously, I have never experienced that. I don't think I will experience that, but I can only imagine the sacrifices that were made to get us to where we are today, and that's something that I never take for granted. Right? You always want to build upon the previous generation. If your parents or your ancestors or your aunts and uncles build something for you, you want to take that and expand upon it. You don't want to let all of that hard work, all of that sacrifice, all of that love and care and attention to all of a sudden fall by the wayside. Human civilization is meant to progress forward, not backwards. And although we all experience moments where we may take a step back, where we may stumble, where we may even fall, um, it is incumbent upon us to then get up, to then move forward, to then pick up all the pieces and chart a new path, right? Because that's just the spirit of being human, the spirit of being a soul that is living on this earth is yearning for a better future, hoping towards a better future. Now, when I say this, I'm not saying that what we're currently living in is not enough or that we shouldn't be grateful for what is here right now. I think this is something that unfortunately gets misunderstood quite a bit, is that hoping for a better future and appreciating the present are not mutually exclusive. You can have both mentalities at once, right? So even though a lot of spiritual teachings and a lot of spiritual teachers tell us to enjoy the present and be one with the now, and appreciate what is here, smell the roses, seize the day. All of these are beautiful teachings, and we should absolutely take them to heart. We should absolutely make them a part of our life. But I feel at the same time, we also need to plan and prepare for the future ahead. And if you listen to some of the wisest teachers, they're also saying this as well. Perhaps not on the surface, perhaps not directly, but if you kind of dig deeper into what they're ultimately saying, they're not saying to be passive. They're not saying to be, sitting around idly and, watching the world go by. It's almost like a conscious action. You're planning, you're creating, you're moving forward, but you're doing it consciously. You're doing it with awareness, not with rashness, not with hastiness, not with sort of a urge or desire that is fleeting, that comes and goes, but it's much more calculated, more calm, and what I feel more connected with your true self, right? This is, if you think about it, our creator, God, is the ultimate creator, right? One of his names is the creator because there's always creation, there's always new activity. And we as humans, we try to embody the best qualities that God possesses and portrays. And obviously, we will not get to that level where we completely embody that, but we want to be loving, we want to be generous, we want to be merciful, but we also want to create, right? It is written in our DNA to create, to make something out of nothing. And our entire lives is really just an unraveling of what we're meant to create on this earth. Whether it's our relationships, whether it's our legacy, whether it's the impact we have on our children, whether it's any sort of inventions we have, whether what we do in our career, our whole lives is meant to just create and give for the next generation. And the next generation will promulgate that even further. So I know I kind of went off a little bit on this tangent here, but the reason I bring all this up is because parents have such an instrumental role in pushing that envelope further, in taking what they have received from the previous generation, making refinements, taking the good, leaving the bad, hopefully, and then passing on those new lessons, those new guidance onto the next generation. And so we always have to be appreciative of that, especially in the instances where parents are really trying. I know sometimes, especially when we're younger, it's hard to see that. I've been guilty so many times, especially during my teenage years, as many of us have, of being rebellious, of not appreciating, not being grateful, of not seeing eye to eye. And of course, that's naturally just part of, the growing pains of life, right? We all experience that. But hopefully, as we grow older, as we develop an awareness, we start to realize and appreciate just, wow, what our parents did for us, what kind of a life they set for us, that we can hopefully then take forward and build upon that and create something even better for the next generation. And this is true regardless or not. I think not everyone follows kind of that perfect linkage between the past and the future, right? As I mentioned at the onset, not all of us have unfortunately experienced a great upbringing or had the best parents. And on the flip side, not all of us will have children, or at least immediate biological children. So when I mentioned kind of this linkage, I know it applies to me and it applies to a lot of other people, but I also don't want to single anyone out, because I feel like even if you didn't have that, let's say amazing past, or even if you don't want to necessarily have children of your own or pass that directly, you still have a responsibility of taking from the past and delivering towards the future, right? Even, you have a responsibility to society. You have a responsibility first and foremost to yourself. But then once you start to look beyond that, then you start to see that we're all interconnected. And what I do for myself, I should do for others, right? That's what I think is sometimes missed, is that, yes, we all don't share the same life journey, but we all follow kind of that similar path of taking what we've learned and then, from our experiences, from our understanding, from our level of insight and awareness, to then be able to make that better, hopefully, for the future. That's something that, unfortunately, I see sometimes in today's society. There are a few things that make me a little bit concerned about the next generation. Not just for my own kids, not just for my own, immediate successors, but just in society in general. When you look at, what's going on with climate change and how the world is changing, how the world is going through a different phase now, right? Where there's all these natural disasters, all these sort of things going on that have made it a little bit more challenging for us to live and inhabit in this earth. When you think about the proliferation of social media, and as much as I am obviously a supporter of that, obviously my videos, I utilize social media. I think it's a wonderful invention and it can be an incredible tool in our life. I also think it has a flip side. And to the untrained mind, to the unaware soul, it can wreak a lot of havoc to the mind. Right now, you can post something out there and receive a flood of comments, negative comments from people you've never even heard of or met or seen. And I've seen a lot of cases and heard a lot of cases where people have been so emotionally affected by that. Even the people you wouldn't even imagine, like great celebrities, great, people that have amazing personalities and, from the outside looking in, appear to have it all together. But, if you look at their lives more closely, it does take a toll on them. And unfortunately, because there is so much unconsciousness in the role, there's also a lot of anger and hate and malice, where there should instead be peace and love and understanding. So in many respects, I do feel sorry for the future generation. I do believe they're going to be resilient, and I think that just like every generation before them, including my own generation, they will find solutions to the problems that they're facing. But a part of me also feels like they may just be dealt a harder hand or more difficult hand than we have been. And so that's going to require them to dig a little bit further, dig a little bit deeper to ultimately find the answers to those problems, to those challenges. But to bring it all back here together, this issue of parenthood, if you notice, I'm not really talking about parenting styles. I'm not talking about how to be a parent or how to. It's more of just appreciating the fact that we do have parents, and even in the instances for some of us that may not have had the best childhood or may not have had the best set of circumstances, there are also lessons in that. There are also benefits from that, right? It's not always that you learn through the good. It's not that you always learn through the peaceful, the calm, the joyful. It's also very much the fact that you learn from the bad, the quote unquote bad, right? Not to get into dualities here, but there's so much opportunity there. There's so much that we can work on. I've unfortunately come across some folks that have a lot of trauma from the past, and it's very difficult for them to sort of wiggle their way out of it. But at the same time, their trauma, as harsh as this may sound, their trauma is also their ticket to awareness and spiritual awakening and freedom. Right? It's unfortunate that they have to go through this way, but that's true for all of us. We all have to experience these challenges. We all have to have this dark night of the soul in order to truly awaken, in order to truly rise in consciousness and realize our divinity within. Obviously, the way those challenges will ultimately unfold, it differs from person to person. But in many people's situations, it ultimately manifests in the form of a difficult childhood. And, taking on, unfortunately, as a child, you're not as well prepared to, set up your mental defenses and to see when something is harmful and not. You kind of just store it all and absorb it, and it kind of just stays there lingering until you finally, as an adult, hopefully shine a light on it, do some real shadow work, do some real inner work, and discover, wow, this is all the baggage that I've been creating all my life. So this video is not to just praise the good parents, but it's also to recognize that even the so-called bad parents, or the parents that, unfortunately were not the best for their children in a particular circumstance, they also have something to offer. Not that that's intentional or that's what they wanted to offer, but God, through His mercy, through His insight, through His love of humanity and willingness to help each and every one of us, He put this challenge in some of our lives so that hopefully we have the tools to then realize, this is the way to actually, awaken, to bring it to a lot of, many of the videos that I used to do in the past, a lot of it was spiritual poetry, and specifically of Rumi, because I felt like he was the ultimate life coach. He had an amazing way with words, and being able to explain a lot of our struggles, and also at the same time to explain that we're ultimately capable of, freeing ourselves from those struggles, right? So I think there's so much that we can learn from that. The image that comes to my mind is, why do you still remain in the prison when the door is wide open, when you have the key? And so we all have that key. We all have that ability to just walk out of our trauma, walk out of our struggles, walk out of whatever situation that we've been dealt with. But it's up to us to slow down, to be calm, to sort of recognize that we need to work on ourselves and we need to spend time doing that. To be honest with you, that's the most important thing you can do. More than any sort of books you can read, more than any sort of places you can visit, it's your own work internally that is so critical to your development, to your awareness, to your understanding. So I know I've gone off on a lot of different tangents here. Hopefully they were somewhat related, but really to just kind of put a bow on all this, it's to appreciate the fact that we do have parents, and the fact that there are amazing parents. There's also parents that aren't, unfortunately, but my sort of grasp and take on it is that there's more good in this world than there isn't, and hopefully we can take that, right? Those of us who have been blessed with such an amazing childhood and such an amazing set of parents, hopefully we can show the rest of the world that, being a good parent does matter, and it does set the right tone. And in the words of my grandpa, it helps erect that tree to go up. That's not to say that a tree that has been planted, crookedly can't find its way back. It certainly can. I've seen that in my own experience sometimes, where I've had to install poles and ropes and kind of force branches to grow correctly again. But this is really just a tribute and an appreciation of all the great parents out there, my own included, especially. I really do appreciate it. I hope we all can take lessons from that. I hope we all can pass that on to the next generation, whether or not that is our own children, our own biological children. We're all children of God. We're all in the same journey together, and every child is our child. Every parent is our parent. We're in the same boat, right? There's no differences whatsoever. And anyone that wants to suggest that there is differences, unfortunately, is trying to probably sow more division than unity. And as you know from this channel, that's not what I'm about. It's all about one. It's all about togetherness. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you have a different perspective, or maybe a stronger appreciation for the role of parents, even if perhaps you may not have had the same joys or the same benefits that others have experienced in their childhood. Recognize that every parent is there to serve a purpose, and whether they realize it or not, God does not give us the set of cards. God does not give us challenges without also giving us the solutions to address those. So take that for what you will. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this video, please consider dropping a like, and also checking out the rest of the channel. And also don't forget to subscribe as well for new videos that come out on a regular basis. I really do try my best to help shed some light on a lot of very important and relevant topics in today's world as it pertains to spirituality, as it pertains to spiritual awakening, but also making that relatable, making that practical, and not esoteric, not something that a lot of us can't grasp. So I hope I'm doing my best. I hope it's resonating, and I really do wish you all a wonderful day and week ahead. And I look forward to seeing you next time.